Next item. Whilst we were all distracted of masks and cancelling jobs and waiting for stimulus checks that never arrived for over half of the people, the usual clowns slip bills in. That goes unnoticed. So the Senate, which is held by the Republicans, and the Foreign Relations Committee quietly passed a bill to give Israel a minimum, and I did say minimum, of $38 billion over the next 10 years. Despite the ongoing devastation to the US economy caused by this fake virus. Now the bill S.3176 will now go before the full Senate. And since the legislation has already been passed by the House of Representatives, if the Senate passes the bill, which it will, because they're all in the pockets of AIPAC, it will then go to the President to be signed by law. If Trump signs off on this, we have to, at some point, seriously question his MAGA stance. Are we about to make America great again, or are we continuing to fund a terrorist state? Now, the most alarming thing about this bill is that it was passed by the committee under two very unusual circumstances and with almost no public awareness. Just like the Patriot Act, create a distraction, sneak through clandestine bills. So the first one was the Senate Committee Chairman Jim Risch, Republican of Idaho, refused to allow a live stream of the meeting, despite the fact that the Senate Rules Panel had recommended that extra efforts to be taken to ensure public transparency, particularly while the Capitol is closed to the public and the presence of reporters is severely limited. Refused. Now, the Senate's Press Gallery Standing Committee of Correspondence had objected strongly to Reich's decision. And the second issue was the bill was passed, listen closely now, without being named, debated, or even discussed. Even though it would set into law the largest such aid package in US history. Not named, not debated, and not even discussed. And there was no mention of the bill by most of the media in the United States. Of course not, because it's run by the same people as why. You know, a massive package is particularly noteworthy in light of the current devastation to the American taxpayers, who, let's not forget, because most people do, who will be footing this bill? The people will. Over $10 million per day. Not year, not month, not week, not even 2 weeks. All right, Dave? Per day. $10 million per day. And this is in spite of, in recent months, approximately 30 to 40 million Americans have lost their jobs. 100,000 small businesses have already closed forever. And over 7 million are at risk of doing so. Some background of Jim Risch. In March 2018, Risch co-sponsored the Israel Anti-Boycott Act S720, which would make it a federal crime for Americans to encourage or participate in boycotts against Israel and the settlements in the West Bank. But the question remains is, why are we still feeding this country that was falsely created in 1948? Why are Saudi Arabia feeding this country also? Why are the US military et al. In bed with both countries when both are committing genocide on Palestinians, Yemens, Syrians, Iraqis, Lebanese, and trying to disrupt Iran? They won't attack Iran, as Iran has means to not only defend, but attack. But in times of massive austerity on the American people, who need funds themselves, why are we continuing to feed a Zionist genocide state? Why have the American people not spoken up as to how their tax dollars are being used in this manner? And $3.8 billion a year would erase all poverty in America within a few years, and yet we are sending it to a war-mongering nation. Whilst the Zionist state gets bailed out with our tax dollars, a neighbouring country continues to suffer due to the same Zionist regime and policies. Lebanon. Hundreds of people have protested in cities across Lebanon for the second night running this week over the handling of the country's economic crisis. Why didn't we send $3.8 billion to the Lebanese? And the Lebanese pound has fallen to record lows, having lost 70% of its value since October when the protests began. The next, Argentina, Venezuela, it seems. Now, the financial crisis has worsened during the pandemic, and protesters in the capital Beirut and in the northern city of Tripoli threw stones and fireworks at police who had used tear gas and rubber bullets on the protesters. The Lebanese pound's decline appeared to halt on Friday after the government announced that the central bank would begin injecting some US dollars into the market. Hello, Mnuchin and Supernotes. And why hasn't that been stopped? Is it the big question on my lips for the past month? And they've flooded it with fake supernotes in a bid to stop the pound's free fall. Now, the move is set to begin on Monday, and it comes as the government prepares to hold talks with the IMF with the hopes, good luck with that, of securing billions of dollars in financing to help put the country's economy back on track. You don't need IMF loans. You've got money belonging to Lebanon sitting in the trust. And if all countries got together, you could end the IMF, the UN, and all the other goons in one swipe of a pen. But it said, however, any bailout is expected to involve painful economic reforms in a country built on sectarian political systems that is likely to face stiff resistance from the entrenched parties. Bailout, which means they'll set high rates of interest, the Lebanese won't be able to pay back, and guess who's going to claim the land and put settlers on it? Now, many Lebanese citizens who rely on hard currency savings have fallen into poverty due to capital controls as banks restrict dollar withdrawals. Coming soon to America. Don't say I didn't warn you. And more than a third of the population of Lebanon is now unemployed.